they will you'll be leaving them in your will. Okay, if you're watching this, then you may see me perspiring because it is approximately 27 degrees outside. I am in my garden office, which is effectively a greenhouse, as I have discovered. So I am extremely hot right now, but we'll cope. Okay, so I'm 2 weeks out from cycle touring, and today I'm going to go through exactly what I've done by this point. So, number one, I've planned the route. This is usually the first thing that I do. It's a draft plan at this point, but it's the first thing I do because then I can understand how long we want to be away for, how far we're going to go, how hilly it's going to be, so how much mileage I want to do a day, etc. And obviously that helps me work out where I'm going to need to find a ferry for, because I'm going to go to France again, as I usually do. So I use a mixture of Komoot and Google Maps to provisionally plan my route. When I've done that, I then book the ferries. Because I've already provisionally planned my route, this means I know exactly when I need to book the ferries for, because I know how many days are in between, and it also allows me to make sure I have plenty of time to get to the ferry. I was traumatized as a child when we got to a ferry port. Like, I don't even know how we made it on the ferry. Honestly, we went around that corner on like 2 wheels in a Land Rover and we barely made it. I don't even think you would be allowed to get on a ferry at that late stage these days, but this was the early noughties, so, you know, they allowed that kind of thing. But as a result, I always make sure there's a massive buffer of time to get to a ferry. I mean, I'm including puncture time, potentially, getting lost. I want to be sleeping the night before somewhere near the ferry, even if the ferry is in the evening. So I've booked the ferries. These are ferries from Portsmouth in the UK to Le Havre in France. Those ports are basically opposite each other. So once I've planned the route provisionally and I've booked the ferries, the next thing I do is plan the accommodation. And for this, I use Google Maps. Because with the provisional route plan, I've worked out the average daily distance I would want to do to get there and back in the number of days that I have. So for this tour, I think I have 9 or 10 days on the tour entirely. One of those days is a rest day in the middle. I basically split it completely evenly. I just divide it into tenths. And then I know roughly where we're going to be at the end of each day. And so then I literally type in camping into Google Maps in that area and I see where the nearest campsite is. I look into that campsite, I see if it's bookable, I see if it's open at the right time of year, etc. Which most of them are, but some of them only open for actual summer holidays. So July, August, and then they close in September. So we always go cycling in the beginning of June every year. So not all campsites are open at that time. So I always double check to make sure they're actually open in that season. Once I've found a campsite in that area and I've checked that it's bookable, I check that we're going to be fine to go there, then I will adjust the route to end on that day at that exact campsite on my route. And then the next day's route, I can start that route from that campsite. And then I know how far I'm going to go in that day roughly. And then I go to Google Maps, type in camping in that area and do exactly the same process. I don't necessarily book every single campsite, but because some of them you just can't, some of them are kind of turn up and see. But I book a lot of them because it just completely eradicates that worry from my mind that we won't find somewhere to stay. When I've cycle toured before in Brittany, it hasn't been a problem. There are so many campsites on the Brittany coastline. It's insane. But the second you start coming inland, campsites really start to dwindle. Even municipal campsites start to dwindle in France. So if I'm coming inland, then I like to book ahead, because then I know I can relax the whole day when I'm cycling and know that there's a campsite, like a booked campsite waiting for us. So once I've pinned down all my accommodation, then I can actually finalise the route. I know exactly where each day is beginning and ending. And then I'll save each day as a different route in my Garmin so that I can have different GPX routes for every single day, which obviously then you can just start afresh every day and navigate the next day. Also around this time in the process, I will make sure I've planned how we're going to get to and like deal with the whole ferry port situation in the UK. We will drive to the ferry port. In this case, it's a few hours drive from where we live. We'll drive near there and then I will book a Just Park parking space, not sponsored. It's just a really handy website/app. I've used it for years. It's just Like, it's so good. I'm sure there are others, but Just Park, people basically put on their driveways. So if they have a free parking space all the time, or just some days a week or something, they will put them on there to book. They're usually pretty cheap. So I think for this tour, which will be away for like 10 days, I think the parking space is about 50 quid for those 10 days. And it's just literally on someone's driveway. You can see pictures, you can see the address. It's great. So that is really close to the ferry port. So it just means that on the morning of the ferry leaves at about 11 a.m. So we have to check into the ferry at about 10 a.m., which means that we'd want to park about 9 a.m. and then we can offload our bikes from the car. Obviously, front wheels will be off, all of that kind of jazz, put the panniers on the bikes and then cycle to the ferry port. Super easy. The car's safe. We don't have to take a car to France. Banging. So I've planned the route, I've booked the ferries, I've booked the accommodation, I've booked the parking space near the ferry port, and I finalised the route. The next step is buying essentials. For me this year, like, I have basically everything I'd need for cycle touring. I've just accrued it over the years, but this year it means buying a new power bank because I obviously film a lot when I'm riding, so this lovely little camera here doesn't last infinitely. I need to charge that every single day. And I obviously need to charge my phone and my Garmin as well, which has a really good battery life, but still it's only going to last 2 days realistically cycle touring because I'm navigating all day long. And the existing power bank I have, which is fine, except it takes flipping years to charge. Like, I'm not kidding, it takes about 48 hours to charge. It's quite an old power bank and technology has just changed. It charges off a micro USB. So instead technology has changed, so I've bought a new, smaller, but as powerful power bank that charges much more quickly. So instead of charging my phone itself or my camera in a campsite, like often they'll have little rooms for cycle tourers and hikers, like a common room or a little kitchen or something where there are plugs. Instead of having to charge an individual device on one of those plugs and obviously leave it there, which is not ideal, I can just charge the power bank there and then I can charge my devices off that power bank. It is the best way of doing it. It's so useful. I also saw this year that Decathlon are selling little solar panels that you could put over the top of your rucksack or the top of your panniers, if you're hiking or if you're cycling, whatever, and power banks that are compatible with that. And I was really tempted because if it's really sunny, like it is today, but like it often is in summer in France, then I can charge the power bank off the solar panel as I'm riding during the day. And I was really tempted, but ultimately that's 50 quid on the solar panel and then it's another 40 quid for the power bank. And I don't know how effective it's realistically going to be. I don't know how sunny it's realistically going to be. It changes. So I just couldn't face dropping £100 on unknown technology. Also, the solar panel is that's another 700 grams. And I'm not super precious about weight when I'm cycle touring because obviously you're carrying loads of stuff, but also I don't want to be carrying unnecessary weight if I don't have to. So we didn't go with that option this year, but if you have a great little portable solar panel that you use when you're cycling, when you're hiking, please let me know because I think it's a really great idea. And these days I look at, how sunny it gets and I'm like, we're just wasting all this energy when we could be using it. So this year I've bought a much smaller power bank, which is still as powerful, it's just physically small, it's physically lighter, and it charges faster and off USB-C, so perfect. In addition to that, I've also bought a new handlebar bag because the handlebar bag that I have been using for the last 4 years it must be 30 years old, and it's great. It's quick fix. It is absolutely bomb-proof. It has a nice transparent window for your paper map at the top. It is absolutely the kind of handlebar bag that I grew up cycle touring with. It weighs a kilo in and of itself, and it's really roomy inside, which was useful. 4 years ago when I used to cycle tour with a camera, like an actual camera, and a Kindle and all of this kind of stuff, and heavy power bank, but I just don't anymore. I cycle tour with a tiny GoPro and my Insta360 Pro Ace 2, which is what I'm filming this on. These are really tiny cameras. I don't need them I don't need a separate camera in my handlebar bag. I also just have less stuff with me these days, so I didn't want to be carrying a kilo handlebar bag plus the weight of the things inside it. So I've bought a fabric handlebar bag now for 25 quid, and it hardly weighs anything. It comes with a shoulder strap, so you can easily take it off, carry it with you when you go onto the ferry, into a shop, into a cafe, yada yada yada. I'm excited to see how this is gonna feel, because when you're weighed down with panniers on the back of the bike, if you don't have much weight on the front of the bike, that can be a problem in and of itself. So this will change that quite a lot. Ordinarily, I would have an extra, 2 kilograms basically on the front of the bike with my old handlebar bag. So now I'm going to have probably quite a lot less than that, probably less than a kilo on the front of my bike now as extra. We'll see. It depends how many snacks I take on any given day. So those are the 2 essentials that I have bought for this cycle tour. I really tend not to buy that much because obviously I just don't need it. I already have everything. I have an ultralight tent. I have my sleeping bag. I have, all of the stuff. I have the panniers. I bought brand new Ortlieb panniers 2 years ago, big 40-litre ones for the back, which is fantastic. Before that, I was borrowing my sister's every year, and then finally I bought my own. Not just because I bought turquoise ones and they go with my bike. I just felt like it was time to buy my own Ortlieb panniers, and I love them. They are the best. Other panniers exist. Ortlieb are just a stone cold classic, and they deserve classic status because they are incredible. Actually, my mum just sent me a pair of her old Ortliebs because she doesn't need them anymore. They're much smaller than mine, so they're useful for some things, but not personally for me for cycle touring. But they're super old, and they are absolutely still going strong. Like, if you need panniers, Ortlieb, they're waterproof, they're the way to go. They will you'll be leaving them in your will. Right, where are we? We've planned the route, booked the ferries, looked at and booked the accommodation and the parking space, tweaked, finalised the route, bought the essentials for whatever you need in the given year. And now the next step that I've already done at this point is I have dug out my panniers from the garage. And this isn't, I'm not being facetious when I say this is an actual step that you need to do in your cycle touring, like not the day before you go cycle touring, because I don't know where you keep your cycle touring stuff, if you even have a garage or a loft or whatever, a box under the bed. But because they're not used very often, like for me, they're literally used once a year. I don't tend to carry panniers on my bike for anything else. I don't need to commute anywhere. I work from home. I use them once a year, and therefore at the end of my cycle tour, they go into the garage. And there's, as many garages are, it's just full of stuff. Like, it's full of stuff. I don't know what's in there. It's full of stuff. Digging them out of the garage, just knowing where they are, like actually where they are, is a real step of the pre-cycle touring system. So I found those now. I got them out today. 2 weeks today, I'm going to take a ferry to France, and I got them out today, so I feel very organised and proud of myself. Okay, and the other thing I've done by this point, preparing for my cycle tour, is I've practiced my French. And this is not necessarily necessary for everybody, but I speak French a little bit. I have been studying it for a while, and I used to take French lessons really regularly with my old job because I had a professional development fund that, luckily for me, paid for language lessons if you wanted them, and if you could justify them as part of your career, which as a writer I always can, because if you speak another language, then you think about things in a different way, so it helps you be more creative if you speak another language. That's science as well. There's a great book on it called The Bilingual Brain. Anyway, so I haven't been practicing French very much in the last year because it's been a very tumultuous year and I didn't really have the cognitive energy for it. And then in the last months, I've got more and more excited for this upcoming cycle tour. I have booked some French lessons and I've been having regular conversations online with my new French teacher, who is amazing. So that's just literally half an hour every few days of me just gassing in French, really. We just chat about anything. And I really enjoy it because for campsites specifically, and I will make another video on this, for campsites often in touristy areas in France, you're gonna find, like, one of the receptionists will speak English, not a problem. I really love to speak French, and the more I get into it, the more I just speak it. Like, even if they default to English, I will just keep speaking in French, and maybe they'll go back to French, maybe they'll speak English, because a lot of the time they want to practice their English too. But I really like now I'm at a stage where I can communicate can't even communicate in English. Now I'm at a stage where I can communicate quite well in French, like perfectly adequately. I just really like speaking it. So I wanted to get back into the mindset of speaking French. So I just really like being able to speak French. So I practice my French in the run up to going cycle touring because it makes me feel much more confident. And then I live my life in French when I'm in France. Okay, so plan the route, book the ferries, book the accommodation, finalise the route, bought essentials, dug out my panniers from the garage, practice my French. Things I have yet to do. And these are kind of obvious things I haven't done yet for obvious reasons. So I have not set up my bike, I haven't put my rack on it yet, and I haven't put on my second bottle cage, which I don't typically cycle with the rest of the year. Not because I want to save weight or anything like that, but because I only own 2 bottle cages and one of them typically lives on my mountain bike, not on my gravel bike. And I will be taking my gravel bike with me because it's absolutely perfect for touring. It's very comfortable and it has gravel tyres on it, which means I can go anywhere I want to. A lot of cycle paths are obviously hard-packed gravel, or they're just really bumpy and uncomfortable. Lots of potholes, all of that kind of stuff. So gravel bike, I much prefer riding when I'm cycle touring rather than, say, a road bike, which is kind of obvious because let's face it, like gravel bikes are basically touring bikes. The other thing I haven't yet done is listed all the things I need to pack, all packed for obvious reasons. I've still got 2 weeks to go. I don't want to faff around with all the stuff because I'm going to be riding in the next couple of weeks anyway, so I'm going to need all that stuff. I normally write a list of things that I want to take with me because it's just easier. The more organised you are, the less likely you are to leave something behind, and you are going to leave something behind. Every single year I have left something behind. It's just, you know, if you go on a trip, there's one thing that you leave at home. It doesn't matter how hard you plan, but if I write a list of things I need to take with me, then I'll only leave one thing behind. Like I'll only forget one thing. When it comes to packing, I can tick them off because the worst thing is when you're packing and then 3 days later you actually go to leave and you've forgotten what you've packed. So I list things out, I tick them off. It's easy, you know. And the last thing I haven't done yet is bought more gas. So we don't take a cooker, we don't take a gas stove or anything like that. We just eat cold food. Bread, stuff from the supermarket, tabbouleh, salad, live off that kind of stuff when we're in France. I don't want to be carrying around loads of heavy cookware or light cookware, frankly, or having to cook stuff in a campsite. I just can't be bothered. Like, we just eat cold stuff. That's how I was brought up cycle touring as well. Like, man, I think we lived off cheese, bread and quiche for pretty much the entire 2-week cycle touring holiday that my family and I always went on every year when I was a child. There's no cooking. No cooking was ever happening, I don't think. And now I'm an adult, I have a coffee addiction, obviously. So the only thing that we do take is a jet boil. And what I wanted to buy years ago was the brew kit from Alp Kit, but at the time they were out of stock. So we ended up buying a jet boil, which has been fantastic. All it is, it's a little gas canister and then a tiny little burner on the top, and then the jet boil, we have the cafetiere top for it. So it is literally just, it's a cafetiere that you boil water in. It's amazing. I love it. It's easy to clean, it's easy to store, it's small. The gas goes inside the actual jet boil itself when you're transporting it, and it's just super neat. I can't praise it highly enough. Never had a problem with it. So I need to go to my local Go Outdoors and buy a new gas canister. And that's pretty much it. Those are the only things that I really need to do now. I'm so excited. I love cycle touring and I love cycling in France because it is just an absolute dream place to cycle. The roads are better, they're much quieter, they are in much better condition, and there are loads of tractor routes, green routes they're called, where they're really quiet from a traffic point of view, but they're perfect for tractors and cyclists. And it's just paradise. I love cycle touring. So that's where I'm at the moment. I have more videos coming on this cycle tour and cycle touring in general, so stay tuned for those. They're going to be really good. I'm really excited about it. I think it's a fantastic way of getting around. So the more information I can give people to help them go cycle touring too, the better. If there's anything specific you want to know, put it in the comments and I will answer you there, or I'll make a video on it if I think it's going to help more people. And yeah, let's go on some more bike adventures. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next one.